Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. We are now less than 24 hours away from the NBA trade deadline. We had a couple of trades go down today. Nothing major, but still some stuff worth talking about. James Harden may be going to Philly. They're either talking or they aren't, depending on which report you believe. At this point, oh my goodness, I love this time of year. Keith Smith joining me at Keith Smith NBA. You can find me at Trevor_Lane. Keith, let's dive into the madness.
Yeah, absolutely. It's yeah, the Harden-Simmons stuff was absolutely hilarious because this isn't even outlet versus outlet.
Mm-hmm.
Like one side is, reporting it and another whole outlet is reporting another one. These are two major respected reporters from the same place, basically saying one was saying, well, they're in the deal zone
Yeah,
or
that was
something
that
like
was
that. I
Windhorst
don't know
said
what
they're
the
in the
deal
deal
zone
zone.
is.
It's
But they were there this morning, and then that was Brian Windhorst, and then Woj came along and said they're not even talking. Like so, I mean, maybe they're texting. Maybe that's what Woj meant, right? Maybe Woj is like they're not talking, and that was where he left it. I don't know, but we've got definitely some shenanigans going on in Brooklyn and in Philly. So somewhere I think Sean Marks and Daryl Morey are just sending laughing emojis back to each other with tweets attached or something. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, we got a lot going on. Where do you want to start? Because should we just start there?
I think we start with the deal zone. Somewhere Kenny Loggins'
Deal
ears
zone.
just perked up and he's seeing a collaboration for this one.
Highway
So
to it.
yeah, I mean, well, sorry kids, you probably didn't get that one, but that's okay. If you're old enough like us, then you know what we're talking about.
Dude,
This
we
is
barely are old enough to get that. Come on now. Like, when
well,
did
that's
that
true.
song come out? That's gotta be 70s, 80s. I don't
Oh,
know.
it's
Let's
definitely
not
80s.
spend time on that. No, oh, we're gonna do it. Okay.
You know,
Guys, if you can't tell, we're a
while you're
little
talking,
punchy.
I'm gonna look it up here. I'm gonna look it up
All right.
when this
All right.
came
You
out.
look that up. I'll start talking basketball.
1986.
Yeah,
1986. No
all
love for
right,
that.
all right. I was a young pup
Yeah.
then, so okay, all right. It was in our lifetime. All right, well, that's been 1980s music breakdown with Keith and Trevor. Thanks for joining us tonight. Oh man. All right, so we don't really know what the story is here. I mean, I think why we're kind of being punchy about it is there's either a whole lot going on and James Harden is going to be on the Sixers and Ben Simmons is maybe going to be on the Nets, or there's nothing going on at all. Kind of as we alluded to, there's conflicting reports out there. Deal's close. They're not even talking. This is going to be. I think this is going to keep going till sometime
Mhm.
tomorrow, maybe. We did get report James Harden has been ruled out for tomorrow night's game for the Nets, so that's in advance now. That's an easy one for the Nets, right? Maybe he's not even going to be on the team. So, what difference does it make? But yeah, what's interesting though is the kind of the for me to get a little bit more serious for a second is the confidence in the reporting. Where Brian Windhorst is basically saying Harden's like done,
Mhm.
like he's completely done with the Nets. He wants out. He didn't go as far as saying he's quit on the Nets, but he was like, that's kind of where it's heading. And then Woj is very confident of they're not even talking, not even discussing a trade. Now, maybe both is true. Maybe Harden has kind of gotten to that point, but they haven't gotten there on a trade yet. We don't know, but let's see, where that this one goes. But that's kind of your big non-update. I guess we're used to that with Simmons by now.
If they're not even like we're seeing some parameters for a deal that's coming out. I mean, we're seeing
Yeah.
well, okay, they want this guy in, or is it they're countering the Sixers don't want to
Hmm.
put Tyrese Maxey in at all, so the Nets are countering saying they want Thibault, they want Seth Curry, they want all this other
Yep.
stuff. To me, so
Picks.
so
Yeah.
that means that either somebody's just making this stuff up, right? Just
Yep.
making up what would potentially be, and maybe they're just speculating. Hey, this would make sense if they wanted this, and somehow that's getting out there, or there actually is talk, and the whole notion that they're just not talking at all. Now, the only thing that I can see where this could be a gray area is what if it's you've got one report, you've got Woj saying they're not talking at all, meaning general manager to general manager. They each have
Yeah,
staffs
that
that can be
could be.
talking,
Yep.
on a different level.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, because just the other day there was a lot of stuff out there of their back channeling things, which is weird. I mean, it's a trade talk. This isn't a free agent trying to do something. Yeah, I could totally see Harden back channeling. We've had reporting that Harden has reached out to, just so everybody knows, James Harden does not have an agent. He has a manager, but he does not have anybody who negotiates contracts. Because if you're only getting max deals, why are you giving a cut of that to somebody just to negotiate the same terms? You can say, I want as much as you can give me. Okay, done. Right? Like you don't need an agent for that. But where you do need an agent is you kind of have your agent start having some conversations, right, with people, because that's how you get to, all right, hey, Philly, what can we do here? It's even gone as deep as reports of Harden doesn't necessarily need the full money he can get because his goal is to win a championship. So he's willing to take, 10 million less a season and those kind of things. So I've said it before, when there's this much smoke, there's at least a small fire. So I'm going to continue to believe that we're getting selective and very careful choosing of our language on these reports, but that something is at least happening. I'm not saying it's close and there's going to be a deal, but something's happening. And then just my own tidbit, I was talking to a team this morning that told me they were engaged with Brooklyn on another trade. It was not a trade that involved James Harden, did not involve even a 3-team deal with the Sixers. It was a much more minor trade, and the Nets put them on hold. And we're like, hey, we'll come back to you. We'll get back. That's usually because we're working on something bigger right now. We don't know where we'll see. We'll get back with you. And then it kind of went silent for a while. I've not been able to get an update since much earlier this morning. That's now been probably close to 8 hours or so, but that's kind of just, that gives me a sense of there's at least some conversation happening.
There's too much, like you said, smoke for there to really be
Yep.
absolutely nothing going on. So I don't buy that. Will be interesting to see, the talk about, did James Harden quit on the team? He had 4 points in their last game, played 37 minutes, scored 4 points, and didn't shoot a free throw. This is James Harden who gets free throws given to him just for stepping foot on the court,
Yep.
right? Like you look at James Harden and it's a whistle and he's shooting free throws.
Yep.
So
and then didn't play, hasn't played now in 3 straight games, I think.
So
didn't play last night. I mean, they got absolutely demolished by the Celtics. It was 28-2 in the first quarter. And, it was just, I mean, from there, I mean, they made a little run and made it look a little better, but it did not much. And it was, so let's see, right? We're going to be waiting on this one probably. I'm not going to say until 3, but probably until midday. And then what will either happen is this will either happen or we'll get one of those tweets from Woj or Shams or somebody that says, no, deal is off, no trade, teams will regroup this summer or something along those lines.
I think that there's discussions going on. If it happens, it happens. I don't know if it's going to. I think there's a lot of ground to cover between now and then in a very short amount of time. So we'll see if it actually gets done or not. We've detailed it before. Each side can go into this believing that they've got a ton of leverage. And so that can make it difficult to bargain because both sides aren't going to want to give much. We'll see what winds up happening. But let's move on. We did have a couple of trades go down. And I guess let's get into the more interesting one first. We had a 3-team trade. So the Utah Jazz get Juancho Hernan-Gomez and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. The Spurs get Thomas Satoransky and a second rounder. The Blazers get Joe Ingles, Elijah Hughes, and a second rounder. So the Blazers move off some more money. The Jazz are able to pick up a young guard in Alexander Walker that maybe can help them out. The Spurs are able to pick up a second round pick here as well. This in somewhat, this is more of like kind of an accounting move, particularly like from the Blazers side. But Alexander Walker is an interesting get for Utah.
Yeah, absolutely. Utah's been looking for some depth, a guard with size. They were in on Josh Hart until he went to Portland. Of course, Portland, likes Josh Hart, so they're not going to move him in that one. But we'll see, what happens. Does this free up the Jazz? Do they feel like, hey, all right, now we can maybe move Jordan Clarkson as the salary matching in a bigger trade and use Alexander Walker? He slipped a little. He has not played as well this year as he kind of looked like flashes there, but he's young. He's still got another year on his rookie scale deal. Utah, they do pretty good with player development there. So, let's see what they make of him the rest of this season. For them, the Hernan-Gomez, that was just kind of to make the salaries work and to get off the Ingles contract. But I mean, it's weird because just a couple years ago, he looked like he was kind of okay. And Minnesota signed him to a new contract, and then he didn't do anything for Boston this year. He's played a little bit since the Celtics moved him to San Antonio just a few weeks ago, and then now he's sitting, in Utah. Maybe he can help a little bit off their bench as a forward with a little bit of
Mhm.
size, but I don't know. I think the Jazz, they've still got work to do. They're still sitting on 3 open roster spots. One of them is a two-way. But they've got to do something to fill this out because now without Ingles, they're definitely a guy short in their rotation.
Yeah, I don't think the Jazz are done. I think they've got another move in
Yeah,
them. I think something else is coming here. But again, just in a vacuum, looking at this deal, Utah, given where they're at, I don't mind taking a gamble on a young player like this, even if he hasn't
yeah,
looked good elsewhere.
yep,
There was some promise, so
agreed.
I think that's fine. The
Yeah,
Spurs now suddenly the kings of midseason trades. I guess I shouldn't use the word kings though.
yeah, yeah, right.
But
The ruling
the
monarchs
there
of
we go.
midseason trades.
They get a second round pick out of this. Satoransky, that's an
Yeah.
expiring contract, but the second round pick, sure. I mean, why not? Why not get a pick up a second round pick here in this?
Yeah, yeah. The Spurs took on a little bit
Hmm.
of money in this trade because Satoransky makes about 2 million more, or I'm sorry, about 3 million more than Hernan Gomez does. But they were miles away from the luxury tax, so this is the equivalent for the Spurs of buying a second
Hmm.
round pick from the Jazz in this one, and they're getting a 2027 second round pick. So I'm guessing is coming direct from the Jazz. I haven't seen yet. Let's see if that's been updated yet, and it has not. Well, the trade's not official yet. So, the Jazz are in a weird spot with these second round picks. They've got some odd ones that are owed, but anyway, that's where that's going to go to. Eventually there. So that's essentially what they did. Doesn't really change anything for the Spurs long term either. Satoransky's an expiring deal. I I wonder now you've got him and Young. Do you buy them both out and free up a couple roster
Hmm.
spots? Uh, couldn't you see though Satoransky, who's really played poorly this year, all of a sudden now he's in San Antonio. They rehab his value, get him back on a reasonable deal, and then he's really good for them for a couple more
Yeah,
seasons.
absolutely, and I'm sure that's part of the thought process from the
Yeah,
Spurs is what if we can
yeah,
get this guy going again and we get him on a cheap contract this offseason and then we've got something moving forward. Isn't that plus the second round pick worth giving up a
yep,
little bit of extra money? So that's fine. This
sure.
isn't like a major move the needle type of thing for the Spurs, but
Mm-mm.
but it's just
No,
I think it's a good piece of business here. And then on the
yep,
Blazers side, clearing more salary, and we're going to talk about what Damian Lillard said as well, but
yeah,
clearing more salary by getting off the
yep,
Nickeil Alexander-Walker contract, getting in Joe Ingles,
yep.
who's expiring, may wind up back with the Jazz next year. I mean, he's a free agent; he'll be able to go wherever he wants.
Very
Could
likely.
wind up
Yep.
right back there, which that's that.
That's my guess is exactly what happens is he'll probably finish out the year as a member of the Trailblazers. One thing on that too with Joe
Mhm.
Ingles, really cool. He was very on the record said, yeah, they should trade
Yeah.
me. Like if they can get something that'll help, and his terminology was fun too. If they can get something that'll help us in the rest of this year moving forward, they should absolutely trade me. So that says to me, Joe Ingles knows no matter where I go, I'm coming back to Utah next season. I think that's just where he's at. But sorry to interrupt you on
No,
that.
you're fine. And for Joe Ingles, nothing changed. Like he's not gonna go to Portland. Just who's
No.
sending his direct deposit is
Yep.
the only thing that changes. That's it for
Yep.
him. So he's
That's it.
he's
Yep.
still gonna be there. I do wonder for rehab purposes, as far as what that looks like from his injury, or
Yeah.
does he then have to go rehab it at Portland? But regardless,
As long as he's on the roster with Portland, he will.
yeah.
If he's not on the roster, he will. But my guess is it's probably already been set up to do it somewhere
Mhm.
privately. We'll probably my guess is we'll never see him in Portland. And a couple people asked the question of like, isn't he hurt? One is don't let 2K fool you. You can trade injured players. I don't know why that's a restriction in that game. It drives me crazy every year with stuff. But the other thing is Yeah, teams can waive a physical. A physical is not a
Hmm.
must in a trade. It's a decision. The Trailblazers did this trade 100% knowing Joe Ingles has a torn ACL. They don't care. This trade was all about finances for them. Elijah Hughes will probably get a little bit of a look the rest of the way because they're clearly pivoting now in a direction for the remainder of this
Hmm.
regular season of bottom this thing out. My guess is they're going to try to finish as low as they can. You'll really improve that pick, and they'll probably fall behind Sacramento, maybe even San Antonio, and maybe try and get down into that Oklahoma City, Houston range there. But Hughes will get a little bit of a look. He's kind of an interesting guy. He's about 6'6". He's a wing with some decent size, at the NBA level. Hasn't really shown he can defend. Part of that, this mini rant, ready for a little mini rant?
Hmm.
Stop drafting Syracuse guys and think they'll be able to defend. They play in that 2-3 zone. It takes them forever to figure out how to defend in the NBA. Every once in a while, one of them will pop, but now he gets to the Blazers. They get to look at it. But here's the thing with the Blazers. Here's the what's going on there. They've got a ton of flexibility now. They can create up to $20.3 million in cap space this offseason. Or if they really want to, Portland could stay over the cap and they could they have a $20.8 million trade exception from dealing CJ McCollum yesterday to New Orleans. They've got a $6 million one from Covington. Now they've got a new $3.3 million one from Alexander Walker. So a lot of different options for Portland going forward on the different ways they can do things here. So let's just kind of keep an eye on what one they take here. And but if anybody's wondering, that is my projection. Full projections will be up at Spot Track soon. But that is keeping the cap hold for Anthony Simons, which they will absolutely do because they're not going to want to lose his restricted match rights because the limited teams with cap space could all probably use Anthony Simons.
Yeah, they're definitely going to keep him moving forward. And
Yeah.
then we got a statement from Damian Lillard saying he's a
Yeah.
trailblazer at heart. He feels like they can build a winner around him, and off we
Yep.
go. So I think we've got a couple of things at play here now. Assuming that this Portland doesn't somehow become like the landing spot for Jeremy Grant or something in the next less than
Sure.
24 hours now. Most likely, I think we've seen the last of Damian Lillard this season. I think that,
Yep.
like you said, they're going to
Agreed.
bottom it out, and then
Mm-hmm.
they're going to go into the offseason maybe with 2 lottery picks, and probably at
Mm-hmm.
least with their own lottery pick. And then they'll move forward from there and see what they can do to build out. I still think that's a lot of pressure to try to build this thing out in one off season because that clock is ticking on
Sure.
Damian Lillard. But we'll see if Portland can get it done. They've definitely freed up quite a bit of flexibility. And now it's going to be on them to kind of put the pieces together to create Damian Lillard Blazers, whatever we want to call it, 2.0, 3.0, whatever we're at this point.
Yeah.
Whatever iteration of the Lillard Blazers we're on, they're going to have to put the pieces together this off season and make it happen.
Yeah, if you want to check out that full interview, it was interesting. Casey Holdahl of trailblazers.com had it. You can go there and look at it. And he talks about how he and CJ McCollum were like, yeah, we're not going to stay together forever. I think that's just being realistic about life in the NBA. It's eventually they're going to break you up and do a trade. Now, let me throw this idea
Mm-hmm.
at you for the Blazers. If you enter next season with Yusuf Nurkic, Nasir Little, Josh Hart, Anthony Simons, Damian Lillard, and a good rookie, hopefully, from the top of the draft, and whatever you do with $20 million in cap space or exception or whatever. That's really not
Mm-hmm.
awful. Like, I don't hate that. I don't necessarily like it any less than that same similar group with McCollum in there. As long as it's like we talked about after the McCollum trade. It's what comes next is what's important now. Now you got to kind of nail the rest of the moves. But I don't hate it. I don't hate that idea. And in the Alexander Walker part of this too, just to clear that part of it up, that cleared 5 million more off their books for next year because he's on a last year of his rookie scale deal at 5 million, and the two guys that they brought in this trade, Hughes and Ingles, are both expiring. So, so you cleared a little more money for a guy who let's face it, he's not better than Simons, and he's not better than Lillard. And I'm sure they maybe kind of like Keon Johnson better. Or they certainly like that he makes half of what Alexander Walker does.
I don't I don't disagree with the path for the Blazers with
Mm-hmm.
the way they're headed. It's fine. What I don't like for the Blazers is the value they've gotten for the pieces they've shipped out. It was
Sure.
almost like it was they were so determined to go this direction that they just took whatever the first thing they could get was. And I don't know if that's anywhere remotely true. Maybe there just wasn't much of a market for Norman Powell. I don't know, right? Or CJ McCollum, right? I just think in my mind, they should have received more and then had a little bit more firepower heading into the offseason in terms of assets that you can then flip into some other stuff to build around Damian Lillard. So I think that's been my issue with what the Blazers have done, not the direction that they've headed.
So you're like my wife, Dan. You're excited that we're going on a road trip to Disneyland, but you don't like the way I packed the car. I get it. I see where we're going. So
Why
yeah,
would you
no,
go
I
on a
mean,
road trip to Disneyland, Keith? You live next to Disney World.
yeah, I mean, it's nice to go other places sometimes too. It's nice to see how the other
You could
side of the country lives on
stop by and
occasion.
see me
Yeah,
on your way.
that's it. I'll wave to you as we zip by. Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, it's gonna get to this is the story now though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what they do. I mean, let's see what they do in the next I don't know, I can't do the math, but the next half a day here, right? There could be something
Mm-hmm.
else coming. I mean, they could still move on from Eric Bledsoe, or I mean, they may reflip Joe Ingles. Well, one of the things that we're hearing, I don't think we're going to cover it here, but Woj said the Pacers think they may reflip Ricky Rubio, which is
Yeah.
something we talked about, that they think they may be able to get something for him. So, these guys are not necessarily locked in. The only important thing to remember is you can't re-add their salaries to another player, as long as you're an over the cap team, which everybody but Oklahoma City is. So speaking of, let's move on to them because they made a trade today
Let's
too.
do it.
And Trevor, they sent out a draft pick in a
What?
trade.
No.
It's unbelievable.
Somebody check on Sam Presti. Like he's
Yeah,
he's
right.
got to he must have been like when he picked up the phone to make that call, I just imagine his hand was probably shaky. He was
Sweat,
sweating.
porn. Yeah.
Oh, giving up that draft pick. That's
Yep.
not easy to do.
Yeah, right. All right. Here's the terms of the deal. Oklahoma City and Miami Heat. We'll cover the OKC part of this very quickly because it's the Heat part that is far more interesting here. The Heat acquired a 2026 second round pick. That's a tongue twister from the Thunder. The pick will be the lesser of OKC, Dallas, or Philadelphia. OKC because they own picks from everybody at this point. Owns picks from all three, their own plus the Mavs plus the Sixers. The Heat will get the worst one in 2026, provided the planet has not caught fire by then and basketball still exists. That's when they will get that. The Heat sent KZ Okpala to the Thunder. All right,
Hmm.
Okpala's flashed at times. He's kind of still an interesting guy. He was an interesting draft prospect. We'll see. I mean, this is what you do if you're the Thunder. Right? You take a chance on these guys. We'll see if he even makes it through the next week or two on the roster. That's all well and good, right? Miami also dipped about 1.9 million under the luxury tax now, and they've got a little bit of wiggle room to do stuff as far as the buyout market without getting into the tax. None of that really matters. Who cares? Here's the interesting part of this trade. The Heat and Thunder amended, I'm just going to read this, have agreed to amend the protections of the first round pick already owed to Oklahoma City via the Clippers, originally from Miami, which was a 2023 pick that was protected to go. The amended protections are now, it's projected to a 2025 first round pick with protections on it. Those protections are, I can tell you because it's already done, are 1 to 14. So it's lottery
Hmm.
protected in 2025. Then, if it doesn't settle, then it goes direct to Oklahoma City as a 2026 first rounder, no protections. Why was it important for the Heat to get those protections moved off? They could not trade a pick for a long time. Now they can.
Hmm.
Now they can trade a pick. They could trade their own if it falls in the lottery. That's not going to happen, right? Or the least favorable of their own pick, Houston's and Brooklyn's, or they could trade their 2023 pick. And that's important for the Heat because now you're freed up to do stuff. We've heard they've been really shopping is a harsh way to put it, but they've been talking Duncan Robinson's in trades because that's $16 million or so in matching salary and those kind of things. But that's really interesting. You don't just amend protections on a pick for no reason. Oklahoma City, now people have said, why did they do it? Well, one, maybe they like KZ Okpala. That could be a part of it. But the second is now, rather than these picks that just continue out and become eventually 2 seconds, they can get an unprotected first round pick in 2026. That's at the point where Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry might be retired by then. That's 4 more seasons from now. So you may see those two guys have said, all right, we're done. We're off in retirement. Who knows what the Heat will be at that point? I mean, the whole city of Miami may be underwater by that point at the way which we treat this planet. So,
so catastrophic with all of this.
I watched a disaster movie the other day as background noise, and I watched way more of it that I intended. Greenland. Have you ever heard of this movie?
No.
It was actually kind of okay, and they're going to make a sequel to it. It was a comet was going to hit the
sequel
Earth,
called
like
Iceland.
No, it's called it's like Greenland Migrations or something like that. The sequel's coming out. It was okay. Gerard Butler was in it. Oh. It's not like a no name. Yeah, Morena Baccarin, is that her name?
Oh,
something like that. The girlfriend from Dead. Yeah, in Gotham. Yeah, she was in it too. She played the wife. But anyway, we'll review that movie in the off season. That's why I think these catastrophic earthly disasters are on
every time you talk about a 2026 pick, it's like, well, the world's going to be gone by that point. So
it might be. Hey, man, lean into it. Get your tickets on the spaceship to Mars now. I read a lot about Mars this weekend too, and a lot about how it could be colonized within the next few years. This is going off the rails.
Somebody called
way
Matt
too
Damon.
much. Yeah, right. Hey, man, he's a space pirate, right? Mark Watney, space pirate. I also watched that the other night for the 400th time. I love that movie. I don't even remember what I was talking about. Oh, you don't free up protections on a pick for no reason. You do that because maybe you might have something cooking. And Duncan Robinson's value, a little questionable as a shooting is slipped. He can't really defend anybody. But Duncan Robinson in a first round pick, that might get you something good if you're the Heat.
Yeah, that to me, out of all this stuff that we've talked about with this trade, the most exciting thing is the Heat just freed themselves up to make a bigger deal. This is the precursor to something else coming later on, right? So this could mean that we see some fireworks coming out of Miami later tonight, tomorrow. Again, I keep checking Twitter just to see, is there a bomb that drops here on us any moment now? Because this could lead to, again, something bigger coming down the road. So that's...
Yeah, I think that the additional little bit of cap or tax flexibility that you achieved there, you can get in range, because if you threw Markieff Morris into the deal or something, now you're talking, you could take back $20 million in salary and not even be in the tax, and that is that's not nothing, right? If you're Miami, that is something. And I mean, maybe this is more an off-season thing. That could be too. But at least, right? It's interesting, I think, too, because we've talked about it a lot in the terms of the Lakers. What a struggle it is because they've got all these picks that are owed to people and all those things, and that's why it's very difficult. Now, this is just really good front officing by Miami. Andy Ellsberg, one of the best in the league, working with Sam Presti and crew, also one of the best in the league, to do something that's pretty mutually beneficial for both sides.
All right, Keith, let's go rapid fire through some news here.
Yeah, let's do it.
We've got the Bucks hopeful that Brook Lopez will come back. Bobby Portis has been filling in very, very well for him in the meantime, but Brook Lopez could be back. Greg Monroe has actually been playing there for them as well. Has 3 games under his belt with them.
Yeah, that's one. That one, just real quick. It's kind of important because that could help guide the Bucks' decisions here in the
Yeah.
next day or so on the trade deadline. Of do we really have to add a big? Do we feel like we could get by? Because if you feel like, hey, we're going to get Brook Lopez with enough time to get him in rhythm and up to speed before the playoffs, that probably changes things quite a bit on what you need to do. They've also pushed up in the standings now. They're only half game behind Miami, at the top of the
Yeah.
East, and I still like Milwaukee as of today. Let's see what comes over the next few days as the team to come out of the East.
I can attest they're good. They're
Yeah,
very good. They're
yeah,
very good.
that is true.
Um,
A Giannis kid might make it,
yeah,
man.
he
He's
he could
could be
he
something.
could be something. He could be something. According to Mark Stein, the Kings are signaling they might want to keep Harrison Barnes because they want to make a push for the play-in tournament.
I just did face palms
Sacramento.
because why?
Because
Why Sacramento?
Kings.
Why?
Because Kings.
I mean, I guess here's the thing: if you're committed to Sabonis at the 5, which means then you're not committed to Rashawn Holmes,
Mm-hmm.
Barnes is a pretty good 4. Then right, mobile, can shoot, can space the floor, can do some things off the bounce if you need him to as a secondary attack guy. So I like it there, but like I don't know, man. They're 3 games behind New Orleans going into to tonight. It's action for, and that's just for the play-in spot. Like, is it that big of a deal to make the play? I mean, I guess Sacramento, they're closer to Oklahoma City for 14th than they are to New Orleans for 10th.
That just doesn't sound. That doesn't sound possible. Like you'd think they'd be better
Yeah.
than what they have been, but here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Yep. They have as many losses as OKC. They've just played 3 more games, so that's why they're ahead of them in the standings.
That's like the type of thing where like what's that stat that's out there that like we're close like man human beings are closer to in the timeline to
Yeah.
the T-Rex than the T-Rex is to the Stegosaurus or so or it's something like
Yeah,
that. I don't
something
remember
like
the
that.
exact thing where you're just like
Yeah.
how is that possible? It doesn't feel like the Kings
Yeah.
should be that close to OKC, but here we are.
The Sacramento Stegosauruses. There it is.
That's what we're gonna have to call them. Buddy Hield, the Pacers may not be planning to retrade him. Sounds like they might keep him. We talked a little bit about the logjam that Indiana kind of has now, but if they feel like there's decent value there, or they feel like maybe he's going to be more
Sure.
valuable next season when he's got another year knocked off on his contract, maybe that's something for the Pacers to consider. That's coming via Zach Lowe.
Yeah, I think this one is they're not going to push Malcolm Brogdon, who's had a host of injuries, overly hard the rest of the way, and we've covered it before. Brogdon can't be traded before the deadline on Thursday, so yeah, I think this is let's see what it looks like, and then we can always do something this summer if we really feel like we got to break up that mix of guards.
Kendrick Nunn, I got a chance to talk to, along with the rest of the media. We all got a chance to talk to Frank Vogel yesterday before the game against the Bucks. And when pressed about Kendrick Nunn, he revealed that Nunn had another exam and that they are expecting him out until at least March now. Remember, this is the same bone bruise that he suffered at the very beginning of the season. He played like 2 preseason games and then was out since then. The Lakers originally said, well, maybe we'll give it another look in like 3 weeks. Here we are. Now we're looking at March before Kendrick Nunn can get back in action. Hopefully he gets healthy soon.
I've seen a few people beating up on Frank Vogel, saying like, "Why would you say this?" One is you should be honest about injuries. You shouldn't lie. But the other thing is this doesn't change his trade
No,
value to any team right now. He's $5 million. Just you could black out his name, redact his name, and just have $5 million. And teams are like, okay, cool. It's not, and that's not a shot at Kendrick Nunn, who I think is a pretty decent basketball player. It's just that's what he is in trade. It's not there's no real value attached to him as a player right now because you don't even know what you're going to get and what it'll look like when he does play.
exactly. And I do think, just as a side note here, nothing to do with deep dive on or anything, but he is a 5.25 million player option for next season that we came into this season assuming, oh, there's no way he's picking that up. He'll hit free agency. He'll go find more money. I think now it's much more likely that he does pick that up for next season.
Yeah. And that's honestly, that's why you get those if you can, is so that you can pick them up if you need to. In the everything goes wrong, which everything has gone wrong for Kendrick Nunn this year. Yeah, you put that so you can pick it up.
Gordon Hayward out with a sprained ankle. No timeline
Yeah,
for his
again.
return at this point. Yeah, not
Mhm.
good. Not good. Hopefully he's able to heal up there. But yeah, that's a tough blow for the time being. And then of course Bradley Beal now out for the season. That
Yeah.
that can definitely change what the Wizards aim to do here at the trade deadline.
Yeah, and the Bradley Beal one is interesting. We're just kind of getting around to it now because we've had trades and whatnot to break down and horrible disaster movies. But anyway, it's it's we heard he had a meeting with Washington's front office to talk about the future and those kind of things. I've heard some people say, well, this means for sure they're going to trade him. I think it means more of Beal talked with them. What's our
Mm-hmm.
plan? All right, I'm going to shut it down because there's no reason to try to play through this because, either we're going to sell pieces off or we're going to kind of let this ride out or whatever the case may be. And that's his decision. They're now 11th in the East. They've lost a lot of games recently. They're 2-8 in their last 10 games. They would be in a worse shape if the Knicks could get it together, which they seemingly can't
Mm-hmm.
do. But they are a game and a half behind the Hawks for 10th. They're all the way now. I mean, they were up in the top 6 for a long time. They're now all the way. They are 5.5 games out of 6th. So it's probably getting close to done because I don't see the Hawks slipping that far
No.
back to them now at this point, and the Hornets will get it together eventually. They lost 5 in a row, and some struggles going on in Charlotte for sure. But yeah, I think if you're Washington before tomorrow, move some guys. Montrezl Harrell, KCP, guys who may not be a part of the future. Move, get what you can, reset, see where it looks like would Beal this summer.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that is not the direction we had planned for the Wizards. We had thought the Wizards would be more of a buyer on the market. They'd be looking to do things to stop this skid. I think if anything now it's about setting yourself up for next year without Bradley Beal for the season. That's the end of the season for them essentially right now. Now it's about trying to get yourself set moving forward.
Yep.
Last thing we've got, the Blazers have decided to waive Cody Zeller.
Yeah, and the Blazers had to make a move to complete that trade with the Pelicans. Zeller was waived. He was the guy who went. He is out likely for the season with an injury, so that was kind of an easy decision for Portland there rather than somebody who might play for them or somebody who might be a part of their future. So off goes Cody Zeller, and we'll see what his future holds. He'll resurface probably somewhere as a camp invite or something like that next season is my guess. He wasn't playing badly as a backup center for Portland before that. Hey, pull up the standings real
Mm-hmm.
quick. I want to ask you a question I asked you, God, it feels like months ago.
Okay, got him.
Are the 10
Uh,
teams in each conference, same question I asked you a couple months ago, they're different teams now, but are those the 10 teams we see in the postseason?
I think the answer was yes back then.
Yep.
And I still think the answer is yes now, given the new
Yeah,
information that
I
we've
agree.
got, because we had assumed the Blazers would stick around, but with the injuries with the, everything they've done, the injury to Lillard and then jettisoning all those guys, I think New Orleans is now in the play-in and they stick
Yep.
there. And then I don't see, Washington losing Beal and then the Knicks have not been
It's Washington and Toronto are the different teams in the
right.
East.
Yeah. I don't see, and Toronto is very firmly in the mix now. So yeah, I think
Yep.
this stays.
Yeah, I'm with you. So yeah, no, to the surprise of absolutely no one, we are pretty much on the same page here. Seeding's going to
Mm-hmm.
change quite a bit, especially in the East. I mean, 1 through 7 is separated by 4.5 games in the East, which is just crazy. And and the bottom teams there in that 7, Toronto and Boston, they've won 6 games a row each and are rocketing up these standings now. So a lot's going to change seeding wise in the East, and maybe in the West. We'll see what that looks like. Utah starting to maybe figure it out a little bit. Won
Mm-hmm.
3 in a row, starting to maybe get back on track. So I mean, the Warriors quietly,
9 in a row.
I don't think I've seen a team win 9 games in a row with like nobody talking about it. And it's because the Suns just keep winning games too, and they can't make up any ground. They're still 3 games back, but yeah, it's let's see, where it goes, from here. But yeah, we're definitely a lot of stuff to go before tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
All right, last question I have for you, my friend. Tomorrow, what give me your number of deals we have to break down tomorrow, and including even like the little salary dumps
See,
and stuff.
that's just it. I thought so. The first number that popped into my head was 5, but that's when I was thinking of just significant deals. I'm going to double that. I'm going to say 10 because I think there's going to be plenty of
Ooh,
salary dumps and stuff like that happen.
all right, I'll take it. Hey, 10 deals is good. I was gonna say 8.
Okay.
So we're pretty close. So yeah, we all right. So we're both thinking a pretty busy day.
Hope so.
Simmons Harden trade happens or no?
I'm just for fun. I'm going to say, yeah, it happens just so we can
Yeah, me
just
too.
because I think that is what needs to happen for the dam to burst and for other trades
Yep.
to happen. So I'm hoping we
Yep.
find out somewhere mid-morning ish that goes down, and then it's going to be okay, deal, 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 across the league. We'll see a domino effect.
Yeah, or you know what's gonna happen? This is gonna be one. It's gonna happen at like 2:30 in the morning, and phone's gonna go off, and we're gonna have a fight in my house, and and I'm gonna be rubbing sleep out of my eyes as I run down to the office to figure out what's going on. But yeah, all right. So we think yes, Simmons
Hmm.
Harden happens, and 8 to 10 deals tomorrow. So busy day,
Absolutely.
and like always, we'll be here to break them all down.
All right, guys, make sure you do subscribe right here to the NBA front office
Oh,
show.
we're gonna go live tomorrow.
Yeah,
I
that's right.
forgot.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. We're gonna go live tomorrow. We'll figure out the exact timing of it, but probably 1 o'clock. I think we said
Hmm.
Eastern. Right, 1 o'clock Eastern with a couple hours to go to the deadline, and then we'll take you to just after the deadline, because we do know deals sometimes filter in as long as stuff goes. But we'll go through what happened, what maybe didn't happen. Then we'll probably take a little bit of a break, grab some food and stuff, and then we'll probably come back and really dig in and
Yep.
dive in. Does that sound good to you? Or
Unless something crazy happens with the Lakers somewhere in there, yes,
sure.
I should be able
Yeah.
to pull that off.
Yeah. And if one of us needs to drop
Mm.
off, we'll zip out and then we'll pop back in and stuff. But we'll be here for you guys tomorrow, one way or another, to chatting and in live too. If you're listening to this today on Wednesday or Thursday morning, look for us around Thursday 1 o'clock. We'll tweet the links. We'll send them all out. Put your notifications
Hmm.
on because then you'll get it here if you're subscribed to the show. But we'll take questions. We'll have a lot of fun, a lot of back and forth. We like to do the interactive shows.
That's right. Going to be a good time. So make sure you come join us for that. Turn on those notifications so you get notified when we go live. Till next time, everybody. See ya and stay safe.